Geoff, did you have something to add to that?
Well, I think we shouldn't ignore the very important gender side of this. Most men, who still run most of our country, feel very uncomfortable with what we're talking about today. Most male politicians, very happy talking about GDP and crime and exports and so on, but genuinely feel anxious if they start talking about happiness or well-being. Most bosses in businesses feel, again, talk about the bottom line, hard, serious stuff, and this stuff is somehow soft, it's dangerous. You can see their anxiety when the agenda moves in this direction. And I think much of what we're talking about is a change of culture where it's okay to talk about these things. It's not about eliminating grief and suffering and pain, the things which actually are part of life. It's acknowledging them, but then trying to shift the dial a little bit in the direction of greater happiness. And as you said up there, that happens almost entirely through habits, through things we get used to doing day by day, and through that we get the confidence to make them part of our lives. But I don't think we in this room, who are probably largely converted, should underestimate how many people in positions of power, media, politics, finance, and so on, find this agenda deeply disconcerting.
Why do you think that is? Is it because we're all cynical, hard-bitten journos who don't actually want to engage with the concept of happiness?
We could blame the schools. Maybe they weren't loved enough. I don't know.
Yes, I know you'd like to ask a question of that.
Yeah, I run the risk of being a cynical, hard-bitten journo. It's Sophie Elmhurst from the New Statesman. Just a couple of sceptical questions, I suppose. One, a couple of you suggested that people in poorer countries seem to be happier, and I wondered what evidence there was for that, and whether that was potentially a risky assumption to make. And secondly, is there not a danger, I suppose, with some of the checklists and other initiatives of making happiness something that you can fail at?
Is this something that's directed to any of our speakers? Or
I suppose the second one would be at the director. But sorry, I can't.
Mark.
But the first one to whoever. I don't mind.
Okay. What evidence is there to suggest that poorer communities in Africa, for example, are happier?
I think it's really important we get this right. There has been an enormous amount of research about happiness worldwide, which does show, on average, wealthier countries tend to be happier with their lives. It's not surprising. You have more freedom, you have more choice. We also know that more democratic countries are happier than undemocratic countries. Again, fairly obvious. If your government isn't bombing you, you'll be happier. So we shouldn't sort of romanticize poverty as being better than prosperity. It's not. But, as many, many people have been showing for 30 or 40 years, the benefits level off. And over a certain level, you don't get more happy as your income gets even more. And that's why we have, in a sense, this shift of attention. But I think many of us will have experienced particular communities or groups of people coming from very poor countries and being shocked at aspects of our society, how we treat the elderly, how we treat each other, loneliness and isolation. And sometimes that is actually a rather helpful corrective, perhaps, to our complacency. But I would actually agree with you at the part of your second part of your question. I don't think nothing we should do should make people feel guilty if they're failing to be happy. And I think that's been a risk of some of the sort of self-help movement and literature of the last 10 or 20 years. It almost means it's an added thing, like the advertising stuff. If you're not beautiful, you're a failure. If you're not happy, you're a failure. And I think if you look at the website, I don't think any of its both tone and content could be criticised in that way. But it's a fair criticism of some things in the past.
Okay. There was a question back here. Yes, sir.
Keith Adams.
Could you stand up? Could I ask you to stand?
Yes.
Thanks.
Keith Adams, member of the UK Laughter Network.
Well, that could laugh.
A little bit of advertising, and also from Carlisle. How do you see laughter, the science of laughter, playing a role in happiness? Anthony, you do well-being. Children in India and other countries do laughter yoga first thing in the morning. I just wondered how you see laughter taking part in happiness. And if you don't know, come and see us. We're just sitting down here.
Well, I think laughter is the most wonderful thing. It's very hard to be laughing and to be unhappy. And it's a delight as a teacher who spends a lot of time with children in all kinds of schools to see them laughing, because when we're laughing, we're at one. We are engaged, we're awake, we're mindful. So, personally, I appoint teachers who make children happy, who are full of energy and love and life and enthusiasm, because they will be the ones who will bring the children to the edge of their seats. So let's have more laughter. Quick point up there to the New Statesman lady. We teach our young people to be sceptical, not cynical. Cynical, I don't think is so great. We should all be very sceptical about everything we're hearing today. We should test it. And I think what's interesting is that there is science now that is supporting, not everything we're talking about, but some of what we're talking about in important ways.
Can I just add on the laughter point? I think it's hugely important, the laughter, and I think what this movement does is brings together all kinds of different solutions and sort of ideas and inspiring sort of ways of approaching this perspective. Some of you will have been greeted by gorilla huggers on your way into the building, which is great fun, and touch is another really important thing. Physical connection with people is really important. Laughter is hugely important. There's some fascinating research about how when you make yourself laugh, even if you're not actually genuinely laughing, that itself triggers the same health benefits and then makes you laugh. And one of the projects we're going to hear about, one of the many inspiring things we're going to see for the rest of today, is something called DIY Happiness, Do-It-Yourself Happiness. We'll be talking in the second session, and they use laughter yoga as part of that process, and I think we'll hear about it then more. So.
I'm being told one last question, but perhaps I can sneak, as I always do on the breakfast, 2 in, if they're really brief. Yes, I know there's one up there. Yes, run. Thank you. If you could stand.
Okay, my name is Zuzana Jochman, and I am a CEO and producer at Cesare Pictures, and I must say that I really love the concept. It's really fantastic, and I just want to know from Lord Layard, what is your strategy for business owners and leaders to approach them about your project and how this will be done, and how fast do you think that the businesses can start acting upon happiness to make create happy workforce? Because, for example, in my company, the mission is inspiring joy by entertaining the world. So I make my workforce happy, but I'm thinking, how can this be done on a bigger scale, not just company from company?
What is the business strategy? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. We have been thinking even more widely than that we want to develop chapters of this movement of experts who are thinking about the problems of improving happiness in different aspects of our lives. And the first one we actually have started thinking about is happy workplaces. So yes, we want to form perhaps even a little subsidiary within Action for Happiness that is there to promote happiness to CEOs and also to empower employees to raise the issues in their workplaces in such a way that management will respond. One obvious thing which is important that we can do is to have the speakers lists, for example, where if employees want to raise the issue, they say, well, if you, manager, are willing to organise a meeting on this issue, we can suggest somebody that you can invite. All sorts of things like this are the way we want this movement to go. Also education, many other sectors where we really want to make a big push. Thank you.
Well,
One more, and this lady's been trying to catch my eye for the whole session, so thank you very much for your patience. I know a lot of you have many more questions to ask, and I've just double-checked. If you email the website, can't promise that they'll all be answered individually, but at least you can get your point across and join the discussion.
info@actionforhappiness.org if you'd like to get in touch with us.
Yeah. Fantastic meeting. My name's Pauline Crawford, and my company's Corporate Heart, which is about the heart of business, so I understand that. But I really think the world is about the new generations, and I think it's about schools. I really appreciate what you said, Anthony. So what I ask is, how can we change things? Because we've known about emotional intelligence for 30, 40 years since Daniel Goleman wrote all this stuff. We know the evidence. Why can't we run your kind of classes every single school simultaneously? We'll still get the results. But you know, tell us how we can actually inform the politicians, the government, whatever it is, to change the way we do things. I have 2 grandchildren. They're 3.5 and 1 and a bit. So I want it sorted before they get to school.
Very good question. Thank you very much.
Can I just ask Ian Morris, if that's allowed, just to give Ian Morris as the teacher, you have to really shout, just 30 seconds of thoughts on response to that, just to democratise it. But maybe stand up here.
All of our teaching materials are on our Wellington College website, which is wellingtoncollege.org.uk. If you'd like to look at our lessons, they're available for free. Our course has got 6 very simple elements to it. First one is physical health. Second one is positive relationships. Third element is psychological immunity, building a psychological immune system, resilience, that kind of thing. Character strengths, playing for character strengths. Building a sustainable way of living in a consumer culture. And finally, carving out ways of finding meaning and purpose in life. And the kids at Wellington really love the lessons. So if you want to find out more, they're on our website.
And it's there for all children. Let me just say 2 quick final things. One is Michael Gove absolutely doesn't get it. Ed Balls didn't get it. Maybe they should have been hugged. I often thought Gordon Brown would have been a much better Prime Minister if he'd been hugged. He would, and said, Gordon, it's all right. But they don't get it. They think that it's either well-being or it's exam results. Actually, if you do well-being properly, you'll get better exam results. And secondly, to answer this lady, it's about what all of you, if all of you start saying this, that we can have decent, happy, centred schools where we're putting the children first and their psychological health and well-being first, and all these other good things will flow, then people will change. Politicians react to what all of us think. It gets back to what we're saying there, we can change the world, and then we'll get on to more ambitious things in year 2.
I think we're going to volunteer Anthony to do gorilla hugging on politicians. That's going to be something that will make us all happy, wouldn't it? Gorilla hugging and politicians. Thank you to all our speakers. I hope you've got something out of it today. Sorry, once again, if we didn't get to your question. Do email the website, and Mark and the others will have a look at them. It's time to take a break now. There's free tea and coffee in the cafe downstairs. But have a look and engage with the activities around the room and the various projects and initiatives around the room. The second session this afternoon